Hey folks, I'll just give everyone a few minutes to pop in. I'm going live again because I wanted to do an updated video about some of the issues because there's still a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation being going around about making your own hand sanitizers and a few things that have come up and come to attention since things are developing pretty quick. And even the stuff for the DIY stuff is starting to get hard to find. So I just wanted to do another video. I'm going to update the video that's on my blog post, and it'll be on YouTube as well. I posted a couple things throughout the day about some of the safety issues with hand sanitizers, especially if you're using. Sorry, my hair is going weird. Anyways, I can't do it while looking in the video because it's backwards. So there's been a lot of confusion. People are like, oh well, use the isopropyl alcohol that's 70%. That'll be fine because they say it needs to be 70%, and there is a lot of confusion about this. And I do have an updated document on formulation from the World Health Organization and on what they recommend for making. I'm gonna have to switch between screens because I have things from different sources. So by all means, if anyone has questions as they pop in, please feel free to ask. I'll try to get to them as I'm doing the video, and yeah, or I'll get to them at the end. So just a little bit of the updated information. I'm pulling up a couple different screens here so I can't see myself. So the biggest one is that a lot of people aren't understanding the fact that if you use 70% isopropyl alcohol and add aloe vera to it, aloe vera is a water-based product. That's then going to decrease the alcohol content of the hand sanitizer, making it not as effective. So let me kind of scroll through. I posted a link from a colleague, Kayla Fioravante, who does amazing work and is very well respected in the field. So really, when you're looking at using an alcohol, honestly, for an isopropyl alcohol, and according to the World Health Organization recommendations, you actually want to be using the 99% isopropyl alcohol, or a grain 190 proof Everclear, which is 95% alcohol, because most alcohols, if it's 100 proof vodka, it's actually only going to be 50% alcohol. So you kind of have to look at that the proof divided in half, and that's going to give you the actual percentage of the alcohol that's in whether you're using a hand sanitizer, making a cleaner, anything that has an alcohol base to it. And I did also want to mention there are denatured alcohols. I use them for making spray perfumes, and those are non-drinkable alcohols, and I would probably not use that in there. And you have to, and in a lot of cases, the denatured alcohol, like I had to apply for a special license to, buy it and things like that, because it is something that's regulated, and there's all sorts of safety standards with that because there's something that's added to it that makes it not drinkable. So be that as it may, let me just look at my little update. So that's sort of in a nutshell. I'll get a little bit more into that because there's a few things with alcohol that you're going to have to consider, and that really pertains to adding essential oils to it. So if you're adding essential oils to your hand sanitizer or something with an alcohol base, it's not going to solubilize if it's not a high enough proof. So what that means is essential oils are lipid soluble, so they're soluble in fats like carrier oils. That's why we put them in like jojoba oil or sunflower, etc. But they're not soluble in water. And you've probably seen me rant several times about people putting like just undiluted essential oils in their water. It doesn't mix with the water. It just floats on the top. So you're really just drinking undiluted essential oils at that point because it doesn't disperse throughout to the entire glass of water. The same principle applies to alcohol and anything you would be mixing with it. Aloe vera is a water-based product, so essential oils aren't going to solubilize in that, or glycerin or witch hazel or vinegar, any of that. But if you have a high enough proof alcohol, like the 95%, the 100 proof, 190 proof Everclear grain alcohol, you could even go down to 151 proof, because that would give you at least a 75% alcohol base if it's something you're buying, you know, at the liquor store. So that would also probably apply to the isopropyl alcohol as well. In that 91 to 91 would probably be a little bit on the limit, but the 99% would probably be okay. Otherwise, you would need to add a solubilizer to it. And what the solubilizer does is it acts as an agent that combines the oil-loving essential oils with the water-soluble thing, with the water-soluble. Sorry about that. For some reason, my Facebook Live feed just went, I don't know if it's because it's raining here in Philadelphia, but picking up where I left off, and I'm going to edit the videos together before I put them on YouTube, since hopefully that one didn't disappear. I'm going to actually check real quick. Okay, so that's up there. So I'm just going to put a note in there. Technology, eh? Where was I? That's the good question. So I'm going to talk about, or I was talking about, the solubility of essential oils in alcohol. So you need a higher proof alcohol for essential oils to be soluble in them. So if you have a lower proof, like, you know, a 70 proof or 70% isopropyl alcohol, or a lower proof vodka or something like that, they're not going to be soluble in that. And what you would need is a solubilizer that helps gel the fat-loving essential oils with the water components of the blend. So, and those are things like polysorbate 20, which I have a ton of, luckily, and polysorbate 80. There's a product called Soluble, which is actually, I love Soluble. It's just really expensive. But that's sort of, I just wanted to throw that in there because I forgot to mention that in the initial video that I did. Let me get my other things back up here. And the other thing that comes with water-based products, now, this is where the strength of your alcohol comes into play, is that water-based products need to have, the alcohol would need to be a minimum of 60% ethanol content, or you're going to need to add a preservative, because water-based products will start to develop microbial growth within 3 days if you don't have some type of preservative. And there's chemical preservatives and natural preservatives. A lot of people prefer, I use natural preservatives like Optifen and benzyl alcohol DHA, because they're formaldehyde and paraben-free preservatives. So I know that's an issue for a lot of people. So that is that part. Let me go back to my notes. Kind of got distracted with my feed going out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the World Health Organization. They have a PDF document, which I will link with the blog post and the video, about, they give 2 formulations and how to prepare it. So the first one is using ethanol alcohol, that would be your Everclear, you know, the high proof alcohol, adding hydrogen peroxide, and that's the regular, like, glycerin, and you can get vegetable-based glycerin, which is usually what I use, and use either sterile distilled water or boiled cold water with it. So they're not recommending using the aloe vera at all. you know, you can use it in a pinch if that's all you have. The issue I was having with using the aloe vera based ones with that is, I don't know if you can see this. This is the one I made the other day. That was a combination of the aloe vera gel and jelly, is that I've got all these weird floating kind of chunks. I actually strained a lot of it out. I don't know if you remember from the first video, when you mix that, it just, when you mix the gel, it just gets this like gelatinous glob. So it's not really great, but if that's all you have access to, by all means. So that is what they're saying with, from the World Health Organization. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this is sometimes an annoyance of mine, I mean, it's there for a reason. Now, for hand sanitizer shortages and stuff like that, there are a lot of regulations from the FDA in the United States about, like I was going to, but I can't, even like on Amazon or Etsy, because they're just gonna flag it and take it down. I mean, they even, I think in Kayla's article that she wrote, Purell even got slapped with some, well, I don't know if the FDA sued them or cease and desist or something. I'd have to look at it real quick. But so even for people like experienced people who know how to make these things, we unfortunately can't sell them to the public because of FDA regulations, which kind of sucks. But, you know, I do have everything here, so I can make things if needs be. You can slip me some money under the table if you want to, for, you know, a generous donation, or for, you know, getting more supplies and stuff like that. One thing I wanted to mention about their recommendation for the isopropyl alcohol is you're not going to find the 99% alcohol in stores. That is usually going to come, I have a case actually arriving next week. You're going to need to order that from like a medical supply company, or I ordered it from Brambleberry, which is a soap and cosmetic supply company. The highest you're going to find in the store is 91%, which is better than the 70%, but, you know, there's probably going to be some limits to what it can do. So that's sort of, and they go through the entire process of how to prepare it, you know, and what the final products would be, and any technical information. I'm not going to read it to you because it's a long document. So let me throw this somewhere. I'm running out of counter space. Where was I? So I'm just going to go back over a little bit about some of what I discussed in the first video about using essential oils in the, if you're using essential oils in the hand sanitizer that you're making. Just to reiterate, there are antiviral essential oils based on their chemical properties. I'll get into that point in a sec. I just want to note that at this time, that while they have antiviral properties to them, there's no clinical evidence that they work in protecting or preventing coronavirus, because it's just so new. So there just haven't been any clinical studies on that as of yet. So what gives essential oils their some essential oils their antiviral properties is that all plants contain phytochemicals, and those are the plant-based chemicals, and they're part of what gives essential oils their therapeutic applications. And there's hundreds of different types of phytochemicals that are in each, you know, essential oil. They can have monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, monoterpene alcohols, sesquiterpene alcohols, esters, aldehydes, ketones, phenylpropanoids, ethers, sesquiterpene lactones, and furanocoumarins. So typically the essential oils that are high in monoterpenes, monoterpene alcohols, aldehydes, phenols, and ethers all have antiviral properties as a result of their chemical composition. However, the ones that are higher in aldehydes, phenols, and ethers are going to be very caustic on your skin. So you're going to want to probably avoid those ones or use very minimal dosages. Part of the issue that's coming up with a lot of these DIY recipes that are floating around and everyone's sharing them is that they're just kind of being like, you know, they aren't giving you any specific recommendations for how much and which essential oils to use in the blends. So I just want to go over that a little bit again, because in the initial video I did earlier this week, I just kind of went through the list of all of the essential oils that have antiviral properties, and some of them you're not going to want to use. So I'm just going to go through that list again, because I did, when I updated my blog, I need to take a sip of something. I kind of outlined it a little detail and broke them up into different categories. So basil essential oil is the first on the list. Now, you're going to want to use a basil that has a chemotype of linalool. And just to kind of give you the little quick, what that means is certain essential oils like basil, rosemary, thyme, and a few others have different chemotypes, which is a natural occurring process that makes this batch higher in linalool and this one higher in methyl chavicol or estragol. So it kind of happens randomly. It's you know, but if you're getting essential oils from a good company, they will tell you on the bottle, this is basil linalool, this is, you know, rosemary cineol, etc. Because they all have different safety concerns and different therapeutic actions. So also with basil is the one with methyl chavicol should not be used during pregnancy and probably not on children. Lemon basil is also okay to use, but that one you would not want to use if you have if your skin is hypersensitive, diseased, or damaged in any way. Bergamot, which is a citrus oil, be sure that if you use it, that is a furanocoumarin free or FCF free. That has had the bergaptan removed, and bergaptan is what makes bergamot a very highly phototoxic essential oil. This should also be marked on the label as well, because when you have exposed skin with essential oils that are phototoxic, especially if you're using hand sanitizer regularly and you go out in the sun or exposed to UV rays from a tanning bed, you can actually get really nasty burns from them. So let's see what's next. I'm just flipping over to my screen to see if there's anything. And I lost my page. Oh, there we go. So next would be citronella, just noting that's not safe during pregnancy. Coriander is good. All species of eucalyptus will be good, and there's a ton of them, but eucalyptus is not safe for use on children under 10 years old. Any of the fir essential oils, balsam, Douglas, or silver are good. Fregonia is good, probably a little bit more on the expensive side. Ginger grass, that's one you would want to avoid with sensitive skin. Goldenrod is fine. Hyssop, you want to make sure it's there's a variation called decumbens. That is the only one that would be good. And hyssop is not safe for children under 2 years old or for use during pregnancy. Juniper, Kunzea, lavender, and spike lavender are both good. Lemon, which for citrus has a lower risk of phototoxicity as other essential oils do. Lime essential oil, and with that one, if you use a distilled lime, a steam distilled lime, it's not phototoxic, but if it's expressed lime, it's going to be phototoxic, so you want to make sure that that's noted. Also, that should be on the bottle. Monarda, which is also known as bee balm. Myrrh, which is not safe to use during pregnancy because it might be embryotoxic or fetotoxic. Nerolina, Niuli, just noting that Niuli with the chemotype of cineol is not safe for children under 6 years old. Nutmeg, which is not safe during pregnancy. Palmarosa, peppermint. Peppermint should also be avoided on sensitive skin, and it is contraindicated via all methods of application for cardiac fibrillation and G6PD deficiency, and it also shouldn't be used on children under 6 years old. Most of the pines are good, pinyon pine, Scots, and white pine. Pinyon and Scots have no known issues, but white pine, again, if you have sensitive skin, you might want to avoid using that one. Surprisingly, pink pepper is decent for your skin. It's not as caustic as black pepper. There's one that's called Plai. It's Plai. Ravensara, Ravensara, also known as camphor, from the whole leaf tree. That's not safe for children under 6 years old and not safe during pregnancy. Rosalina, sage and white sage, but they should be avoided by people who suffer from epilepsy, high blood pressure, and both are not safe for children under 6 years old and not safe during pregnancy. Sorrow, which is spelled S-A-R-O, that's not safe for children under 6. Spearmint is good. Spruce. I would go with the black spruce because blue spruce is harder to find. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 companies that carry it. Tea tree. Thyme, I would use only the linalool chemotype. Otherwise, they are the other one. I think there's 4 or 5 other variations. They're way too smelly or too harsh on the skin. And there's another citrus called yuzu, Y-U-Z-U. That would be good. The ones I wouldn't recommend using just because they are skin sensitizers. So the last thing you want to do is like mess up your skin trying to use essential oils. And that would be allspice, black pepper, any of the cinnamons or cassia, clove bud, holy basil, lemon myrtle, lemongrass, mei chang, which is also known as Litsea cubeba, mountain or wild savory, and oregano. And there's other ones that have antiviral properties, but I don't recommend them because either way too expensive or they're just hard to find. Cistus, Davana, Helichrysum splendidum, and Helichrysum gymnocephalum are fine. They're just a little harder. Helichrysum metallicum is the one that is most commonly found. And the latter, gymnocephalum, is not safe for children under 6. Hinoki, Melissa, also known as lemon balm, is very expensive. The herb is cheap. The essential oil is just ridiculous. And that's not safe for children under 2. Type of thing. So I talked a little bit about the FDA regulations, so I can skip that part. I'm going to go over some other alternatives that I discussed in the first video I did, and there are other alternatives that you can use. You can do herbal baths, which I do all the time anyways. And you could just add some Epsom salt and some herbs, and I'll go over the antiviral ones. You can use a little, let me grab it. I have these little tea bags that I use them. I should use them because I make my tub a mess all the time, but you can put the herbs in here so they aren't like sticking all over the tub and clogging your drains. And if you're adding essential oils to your bath, you want to dilute them in a carrier oil first because, as I mentioned earlier, at either the beginning of part 2 of this video or the one that got cut off, is that essential oils do not disperse in water. You can also make herbal tinctures. A lot of people use, again, that Everclear grain alcohol or an apple cider vinegar. I don't like apple cider vinegar, and all you have to do for that, you could just take like a mason jar, you put your herbs in, you put the alcohol in, you keep it in a cool, dry place or dark place for like a month. Just pick it up every now and then and shake it, and they can last for years. So that's just something, even not dealing with like the coronavirus, that is just good to have on hand for things. And the antiviral herbs, that's astragalus root, basil, boneset, calendula, dandelion root or leaf, echinacea, elderberries or flowers. A lot of people are making elderberry syrup, fennel, garlic. Now, I would not recommend the garlic for in your bath because you come out hella stinky. Ginger, ginseng, holy basil, lemon balm, licorice root, oregano. Sorry, I got distracted by a message that came through. Or oregano, peppermint, rosemary, sage, skullcap, St. John's wort, and usnea. So, I wanted to talk a little bit. I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about soap making because that came up in a friend's thread. And if you're going to make your own soap, it is really easy to do. You can get melt and pour soap. Let me just grab some of my stuff here. Now, this you would obviously, they do have it on Amazon. It's way more expensive, but you can get them in little 1 pound blocks. This is a hemp melt and pour soap, or you can get them in 2 pound bricks. And this is a suspending soap base. So basically it's kind of like pre-made soap, so you don't have to worry about using lye, which can explode if you mix it wrong. And also when you're making a cold process soap, which you use the lye in, is that they take 4 to 6 weeks to cure. So it's not always practical. I use the bases, the melt and pour soap bases, just because I have to make, I don't have the time. And you know, with all the events I do and all the online sales, I can't, you know, be like, well, I made a batch, it'll be ready in 4 to 6 weeks. So I use these. They're great. Brambleberry is a great place to get them. New Directions Aromatics. You could get them through Bulk Apothecary as well. And they aren't terribly expensive. I mean, you're looking at, trying to think what this was off the top of my head, because I usually buy them in bulk. So like 10 pounds might be like 30 bucks. And 10 pounds of the soap base is gonna make probably, depending on the type of mold, like I use a loaf pan mold now, and that gives me 9 pretty substantial bars of soap. You can also get these little soap molds. I prefer the silicone molds more because they're easier to pop them out when they're done. They also are plastic molds. These ones, I love them. They have little pretty designs in them, but they are so hard to pop out. I have joint issues in my thumb, which makes it really hard for me to do that. I do have extra molds if anyone needs them. But what you do with this is, what you're going to do first is you're going to spray it. I usually keep some isopropyl alcohol, hence why I have so much isopropyl alcohol, is you kind of spray the cavities with it first. And this prevents bubbling, and I don't know if that's now this. So the easiest way you can do this if you're not making it in bulk like me is you can take this, cut it up, put it in a little Pyrex cup or a bowl, put it in the microwave for a couple minutes, and that's it. You melt it. So once it's melted, now you can do, that is when you can add, sorry, my hair is being stupid. You can add other things to them. So I usually add extra carrier oils. I add in butters like shea butter or mango butter, vitamin E oil. Then I add my fragrances and colorants and all that stuff, you know, for the level of soap that I'm making. Now you can add other things outside of that. Like in my Florida water soap, I use actual Florida water, the Florida water I make, which is alcohol based, and that's fine. So there are a lot of variations, but if you want to make your own soap, just get some of the melt and pour. You can use some essential oils in it. I use, the thing with soap is if you actually want it to smell like anything, you have to use a lot. So again, if you wanted to use some of those antiviral essential oils that I mentioned earlier, again, you know, thinking about cost and what it's going to smell like, you know, like garlic and thyme soap would probably be kind of nasty. Keep the vampires away, but you know. So I do use fragrance oils in mine just for giving them the aroma, but for giving them actual beneficial properties with the essential oils. I would probably do like a standard 1% dilution ratio, and I'm going to go back over that because I realized I forgot to go over that earlier when I was talking about things. So I did mention it earlier in my, where did it go? All right, so dilution ratios, and this goes for hand sanitizer and this goes for soap as well. Really for a soap, you're probably going to be about 1%. And that's going to roughly come to, and for hand sanitizer for anyone who's pregnant or for children under 6, you would use a 1% dilution ratio. And that's really going to come up to about anywhere between 25 and 50 drops per ounce. So as you can see, this is a pound, so this is going to be 16 ounces. That's a lot of essential oils to put in there, and they get expensive very fast, which is why I sort of use less essential oils and more fragrance in them to give them their wonderful aromas. So the same thing applies to, did I say 25 to 50? So actually, I apologize, I misspoke. A 1% dilution ratio would be 10 drops per ounce. For the hand sanitizer for adults that are not pregnant or for children over 6, that would be more of a 3 to 5% dilution ratio, and that would be the 25 to 50 drops per ounce. For soaps, I mean, when you're coming, from a professional background with doing soap making, they always say it's an ounce of fragrance per pound of soap. That would be ridiculous if you're using pure essential oils because they're expensive. Let's see. Let me look back at my notes. So just one other thing going back to the soap making part of this is once, unfortunately, I did melt some in here and it solidified. So what I do is I pour it in here after I've blended it with other carrier oils. Now you can use a double boiler if you happen to have one. Free. I make a lot of soap. So, and you can make it, you can do a DIY double boiler, and you can take one of these and put it in a small pot that has sort of low boiling water in it, and and the soap will melt. You mix in your carrier oils, and then once everything is completely melted, you could put your colorants in, put in your essential oils and fragrances and all that. And then you'll pour it in your little mold and then spray it again with the isopropyl alcohol because that gets rid of the bubbles. You can also add botanicals to it. Obviously, I do all the time, and even salts, like Himalayan salt. Just if you're adding salt, it's going to sink to the bottom, so you don't want to add a lot, or it's just not going to set. Found that out the hard way. So let me just look at all the things I have up on my screen. So where to buy things is also important. So the isopropyl alcohol, as I mentioned, if you're looking for the 99%, you're probably not going to find that in stores. Brambleberry, I believe, they have the 99%. And Medline.com also has the 99%. Now with Medline, you have to buy by the case, which is like maybe $45, $50. Brambleberry does have it, but you can get single or multiple 16-ounce bottles, and they are unfortunately about $5 each. So you can also use the grain alcohol like Everclear. That also too can be expensive at about $40 per bottle. The aloe vera, if you need to use aloe vera in it, because really when you're looking at something like aloe vera or vegetable glycerin, their main property there is, because alcohol is very drying on the skin, is to moisturize and to bring some water into the skin so you don't get completely desiccated. As far as aloe vera goes, I like the Lily of the Desert brand best, and they can be found on Amazon or through soap and cosmetic supply companies. Some Whole Foods and some health food stores may carry aloe vera. I prefer the jelly or the juice. The gel does not work very well when you mix it with the isopropyl alcohol. Essential oils, the places I like the best as far as my top 3 things: speedy shipping, selling more than tiny 5 ml bottles, and just being well regarded companies within the aromatherapy community. Eden's Garden is great. Their prices are good. You can get anywhere from like 5 ml to 4 ounces or something like that. Same with plant therapy. Eden Botanicals, you can even order some things in kilos. Haven't had to do that yet. And their prices are pretty good as long as you're not getting like high-end perfuming ones that are like $200 for a tiny little bottle. Aromatics International is very good. If you're looking at getting any herbs, Penn Herb Company down in Northern Liberties is great. The Herbiary, which has a stand in Reading Terminal Market. Mountain Rose Herbs, I like. They're just really slow shipping because they're coming from the West Coast. Star West Botanicals is good. They also sell a lot through Amazon as well as Frontier Herbs. So I think that's it. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything like I did last time. So also just want to mention, if anyone needs supplies, I have tons of everything because I make so much stuff. And I'm going to post I'm going to kludge together the two videos so it's more cohesive and get that uploaded to YouTube, and I'll update the blog post and circulate that. So I got everything from that article. Let's see, what's this one? I think I got everything. Yeah, it's unfortunate that people that actually know what they're doing can't sell this stuff online because of FDA regulations, but it is what it is. You know, if people do need this, I can make it for you, and you can pick it up, and we won't be selling it online. So yeah, I think that's everything. Unless anyone has questions, I'm going to log off and get the video and all the updated stuff together. Thank you for watching, and stay safe and don't panic. Good night.